luchando por la libertad de mis hijos. Y bueno,
la violencia del gobierno y la violencia del AMPA. Todo eso son razones para tú salir a protestar, a manifestar, a defender tus derechos y aspirar a una mejor Venezuela.
Aspire to a better Venezuela, a phrase that undoubtedly many Venezuelans connect to due to the current situation the country finds itself in. For some time now, it has been clear that Venezuela faces an economic and humanitarian crisis that has led the people of the country longing to find stability. As stated by Stephen Carman, the widespread of malnutrition, the growing poverty, and the spread of otherwise preventable diseases are reasons why millions of Venezuelans are protesting in anti-governmental practices, as the protests that we saw in the previously shown video. Good morning, my name is Fabiana Martinez. And taking all this into consideration, it raises a question. Since the late 1980s, to what extent has the perception of democracy in Venezuela negatively impulsed collective action in the population? And throughout the course of this presentation, we will discuss how since the late 1980s, the Venezuelan people's perception of democracy has negatively prompted collective action by emphasizing polarization and aggression in the society. First, it is necessary to know the situation of the country to understand the tendencies of Venezuelans in terms of protesting. During the 1980s, Venezuela was a wealthy country that enjoyed of abundance, a public police services, and a well-organized justice system. According to Warren Hodge, who was a journalist at the New York Times, the richest nation in South America and its most durable democracy is now caught up in an economic crisis as full-on as we had previously seen the fate for our plans, demonstrating that it is hard to believe that such a prosperous country as Venezuela used to be is now facing an inflation, as we can see in the graph. By 2015, it had already reached 275%, and it continues to increase over the years. But how did this happen? It was due to President Maduro's inefficiency of implementing the anti-neoliberal policies that President Chavez used to promote during his term in office. President Chavez's policies caused a significant change in the democracy of Venezuela, as according to the Touch, by declaring himself a socialist, he spurred the destruction of the remaining institutions of representative democracy. Maria Garcia Gadilla, a professor of political and urban sociology at the Simon Bolivar University, states that the polarization in Venezuela materialized with Hugo Chavez's rise to power. This had a negative effect on the unity of the Venezuelan people, as causing more tensions and division to be more pronounced, and demonstrating that although Chavez was not the president that brought the situation of Venezuela to the crisis that it is today, he certainly served as an impetus for the division of ideologies in between the country. The division was characterized by two dominant groups, the first one being Chavism, which follows the ideologies of President Chavez in some extremist way, and even has been labeled as adhering to cult-like narratives that persuade its followers to follow the president's footsteps in some extremist way. While on the other side, we can find the opposition, which is due to its evident displeasure with the Chavista government that it is the author of many of the protests occurring in the country. This is since the protest being a form of collective action and despite increasing unity among individuals who share the same principles, as according to the first source provided by College Board in the stimulus, it can increase conformity, aggression, and destructive obedience, which are characteristics that present large group masses that share the same ideologies and certainly present in the two groups that we previously discussed. As we can see that Chavism presents conformity and dependency of the president's ideology, as well as the opposition has carried out a variety of protests that increase the aggression in the society. A clear example of aggression in collective action measures is the Caracazo, a massive protest that took place during the late 1980s and was clearly a turning point in Venezuela's political history, producing an irrevocable change in the relationship between the state and the society. Due to its disrupted civil engagement that characterized it, but also because it sparked a series of protests with greater frequency and intensity. We can see a clear example of collective action measures if we take a look at the Caracas, at the graph presented. If we take as reference the marches, we can see at least around 39 marches currently a 6-year period, right? 451 marches occurred after the Caracazo in an 11-year period. This emphasizes the impact that the Caracazo had on the collective action and the aggressiveness it represents, as well as the civil motivation that it had. For the situation presented, I generated a solution that includes the use of social media as a more peaceful alternative. Social media has presented a really impact role of the distribution and documentation and motivation of the protest. However, proposing a solution that only includes the protest and expression through technological means can be really beneficial for the situation, as it can be a way of expressing disagreement without causing any disturbances. And one limitation that I found for this solution will be that not all the Venezuelans present the electronic devices that they can use for the expressing of this disagreement, as well as not all of them have the internet access. This prevents them from taking participation, and this increases their desire to take public action in face-to-face protesting. These are the work cited, and thank you. What question do you have?
All right, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
First one, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use, and then why didn't you use it?
I gathered a lot of information about how the students were present in the protest, as well as the different types of identities that were present in them. However, I felt that it was beneficial to know, but it wasn't essential for the development of our argument, and it will be really extensive to talk about, because I would have to talk about also about the reaction of the government, the police brutality that it caused and that it brought, and that it didn't work well with the rest of the population, so that's why I didn't include it in the presentation.
Okay, and then if you had more time, what additional research would you have conducted on this issue?
I will have conducted more research about the government's perception of the protest, as well as their reaction. We'll talk more about the police brutality, and we'll investigate more about those kind of things.